Hi angels, in today's episode I want to talk to you about speaking your truth, about having the courage and the confidence within yourself to speak up and say what you really feel, what you really mean, what you really want, what your boundaries are. Because when you have the courage to speak your truth, it's amazing what aligns for you. It's amazing how much more empowered you feel to show up in the world and be your real self, unapologetically, unafraid. So I want to share with you a story of something that happened to me on the weekend that I was very nervous and uncomfortable about, that I made a decision to speak up openly and honestly in front of a group of people, and how it just impacted a couple of girls around me, and they told me about it and I went, I need to share this example because it's very, very powerful. Hi, my beautiful friends. I want to have a chat with you today about speaking your truth. I know so many women struggle with this. I know I have, still do, but previously really badly struggled with it. But over time, I am becoming stronger in using my voice. But if I go back to many, many years ago, I struggled being in front of the camera. I struggled speaking and asking for what I wanted. I struggled doing like lives. I was nervous teaching in front of classes. And over time and podcasts. I was really, really scared to podcast in the beginning. And now I can just sit and chat with you guys for hours and not even bat an eyelid, because I have done it more. That is the only reason, right? It's repetition. It's doing the thing that you're afraid of, that at first it feels uncomfortable, but the more you do it, the more comfortable it feels. If you go back a few episodes ago, I think it's 85, I have a podcast episode around that terrified, excited feeling when you're about to do something to get out of your comfort zone. That episode is all around fears and getting uncomfortable. So you may want to go back and have a listen to that one as well. But today is all about speaking your truth, is about standing up and saying what you believe. It's about asking for what you want. It's about having faith in yourself, about backing yourself, about trusting in yourself, around trusting that your desires, trusting that your truth, trusting that your needs, trusting that your boundaries, trusting that what you want are all worthy, girls. You are worthy of all of them. They are all valid. They are all important. And it is okay for you now moving forward. I want you to understand it is okay for you to be seen. It is okay for you to be heard. And it is okay for you to speak your truth. Of course, coming from that place of loving kindness and compassion. And I know you guys who are listening to me will absolutely come from that place, or if not, you'll probably have a few hard lessons like I've had many of them myself as well. And I want to share with you a little story around what happened the other day, last weekend. I was at a day retreat, and at this day retreat, with a friend that I know, Jenny. I love Jenny. She's amazing. And I thought to myself, how it started was, I actually went to a healing session. I actually had like a Reiki session with a healing friend of mine. And she said to me when I went in, she said two things. And one of the things that she said, one was all around, be very mindful of your collaborations. Don't do any more collaborations unless they are in alignment from you and you are actually feeling like you're giving to yourself just as much, because in the past I've just given so much away and not valued myself enough. So that was the first thing she picked up on. And the second thing that she said was, you need to give back to yourself more. And I thought, I do give to myself. I go and I give so much to myself. And then I thought about it and I went, since I opened this studio, I run retreats, I speak, I share, I teach, I go over, run Bali retreats, I run women's circles, I run all these events. And I went, I can't remember the last time that I actually have attended one, even like a week-long retreat. I'm hanging to go on one. I haven't been on one since I started running them before I had the studio around 8 years ago, right? And so I tell you guys to do these things, and I thought, I actually haven't done that for myself for such a long time. And I just had this revelation, I actually need to go and do this. So anyway, I got like a text message from Breathe Bathhouse down the Gold Coast, saying that they had they were doing like a morning where you could come and do yoga and then stay and use the bathhouse. And I went, you know what? I'm actually going to do it. So I just bought the ticket because I will practice at my own community. But I went, I think I actually want to go somewhere where I don't know anybody. As bad as that sounds, I love you guys. No disrespect. I love you guys. But sometimes it's nice to just, and you'll relate, where you just don't want to talk to anybody. You just want to be in your own little bubble. No one knows you. And you can just slip in, enjoy, and slip out. So I went down there, and at the same time, one of my friends, Jenny, was running a day retreat. So I thought, oh my goodness, like I'm going to do a whole day of like an immersion, right? So I left home at 6 and I got home at 6:30 p.m. that night. I went down to the bathhouse. I did yoga. Then I stayed in the bathhouse for like 2 hours, which was beautiful. The hot and cold plunge pools, the spas, the sauna, the steam room, all of that felt $1,000,000. Then I went to this beautiful little fresh pantry at Oxenford Cafe there and had the most delicious breakfast. Then I drove through the hinterland to this day retreat, and it was just like a day that really filled my cup up. I was out in nature. I just felt so good after it. Did not feel guilty. And I went, yes, I feel inspired again. I feel my cup is full. And anyway, when we're at the day retreat, Jenny had out these boxes, right? And they're for a couple of things that she's running throughout the year. Amazing programs that she's got. One's a 12-month container. There was like a shorter course and a retreat that she's doing, right? So she just said throughout the day, go and pop your name. There's a piece of paper and pencil. If you feel called to, go and pop your name in the box, and I can talk to you more about these events or the courses that I'm running. And I thought, oh, that's a really cool idea. Anyway, we get to kind of towards the end of the day. She says, she goes around, and I love you, Jenny, but she goes around and says, stand up if you haven't put your name in the box. Stand up. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness. And I hadn't put my name in because for a few reasons, which I'll explain, I wasn't interested in doing any of them. I love her to bits. I love what she offers, but it just wasn't in alignment with where I'm at the moment. And she's coming around, and I'm standing there thinking, oh, don't ask me, Jenny, because I'm going to tell you the truth and I don't know if you're going to like it, but I feel bad if I say the truth. Like, what do people think? All these things are kind of going through my head. And I was a bit nervous. Like, if I'm perfectly honest, part of me was nervous, but part of me was like, just tell her the truth. Because I could see a few other people, like they stood up and then they ran down to put their name in the box, which is totally cool. And I could see a few people getting uncomfortable, kind of maybe saying, oh, I'm not really sure what it's about. And I'm thinking to myself, because I was one of the last ones, fuck, what am I going to say? Like, I went, just tell her the truth. Just tell her the truth. And anyway, she comes around to me and I was feeling, you feel that little bit of a sick feeling in your stomach. It's in front of like about, 45 people or something. And she's going around with the mic in front of everybody. And I understand why she's doing it, because she really wants you to prioritize you. She wants you to invest in you. She's got pure intention. So I really know that. And she gets to me, and I knew I couldn't go to the day retreat because we have something on that weekend with the family. And I said to her, she's like, Lise, why aren't you coming? And I said, we've got something on that weekend. I can't do the day retreat. And I said, the offerings that you've got, they just don't align with me at the moment. I am already running my own 12-month coaching container for my group of women, and I'm putting all of my energy into them and into that container and don't want to lose sight of that. And secondly, I am working with my business coach, Sally Watson, on a 12-month coaching program with a group of girls, and my focus this year is on growth, my personal growth, my business growth. That's where my energy is going. So that's why I don't want to come, because this is what I'm doing. And she said, should we let her off the hook? And I'm like, well, you better, because that's the honest to God truth. And she said something like, I like when people stand in their truth. And I was like, oh, kind of felt this sigh of relief. And anyway, what happened after that, I kind of didn't think too much of it. And what happened after that, a beautiful girl there who I'd met just once previously come up to me and she said, I just wanted to tell you that I was so impressed with what you said with your response to that question. She said, I chickened out. And when she was coming to me, when she was going around, she said, I ran down and put my name in the box, even though I didn't really want to, but I didn't have the courage to say what I felt. And she said, then I saw her get to you and thought, Lisa said exactly how I feel, because she's this woman is working with Sally as well. And she said, said exactly how I felt. I wish I had the courage to say that and just speak my truth instead of chickening out. She said, you really inspired me. And I'm not telling you that from ego. I'm not telling you, go me, like I'm telling you that from the point of view that when you stand up in your truth, no matter how uncomfortable it is, because man, I was uncomfortable because I didn't want to offend Jenny. Like I didn't want to upset her. I didn't want her to think that her program wasn't good enough. Like, because it is, it's amazing and she's amazing. It's just not what I need at the moment, right? And so I have this fear of, I don't want to let people down. I don't want to upset people. I don't want them to feel bad because I don't like that disharmony. I don't like any, discomfort. It just feels a bit yucky. But I made a decision right there and then. I could take the easy way out. I could have lied and sat down there, but the boxes were in front of people all day anyway. So she would have known and people would have seen who's putting their names on because I went out on property. People would have seen who's popping their name on the box. So, but I could have lied and not said, and just sat down and not stood up at all. I could have made up an excuse that would have been easier to please her. I could have ran down and put my name in the box when I know I had no intention of going there anyway and waste her time ringing me, waste my energy having to then, when she calls me, back off and, feel that discomfort from that sales call again. Or I could have just stood up and said the honest to God truth, right? And I think that's 4. And anyway, that's what I decided to do. But in doing that, it wasn't only for myself. I actually felt proud of myself and breathed a big sigh of relief when I sat down. But it gave permission for other women to do the same. Or if they didn't, it gave that permission to show them what they didn't sit well with them, which is fine. We've all done that. And I've definitely done things like that in the past. But it gave them permission to go, man, I'm inspired by that woman who stood up and said how she really felt. I need to stand up and say how I really feel, because it gives you power. It gives you confidence. It makes you feel, this is who I am. This is what I want. And I'm just going to speak that out to the world. I'm going to protect my energy. I'm going to project my energy the way that I feel empowered to. And I'm going to say it in a kind and loving way. And it's going to inspire other women around you. So girls, when you speak your truth, it's not just helping you, it's helping teach your kids, and it's helping other women around you have faith in themselves, have confidence in themselves to stand up and rise other women up. And that's what really impacted me. It wasn't what I said. I would have not told you that story at all. It was because this other woman come up and what she shared with me. That's why I'm sharing this podcast, because I gave her power in that moment. And even if she didn't right there in that very moment, the next time she will, right? Because I've been that woman where I've chickened out or I've taken the easy road and I've seen somebody else and I've gone, oh, I'm so inspired by her, like I'm impacted by her. So you can be that person that is going to lift up other people around you and is going to give other women permission when you own your truth and you have the confidence to say how you feel. I said it with love and kindness and compassion. I said it in a way that was respectful. I said it in a way that was kind to me and honored her. It honored both of us in this situation. So really make sure that you're always coming from that place of love and compassion and kindness, and you just can't go wrong, right? And then what happened was, after that, I was sharing in our business coaching group, and one of the other girls in the group, she said, I was there that day and I was sitting behind you, and she said, I saw when she come around, she said, I saw you could, she's great at reading body language. She's a beautiful soul and just so gifted. And she said, I could see you clench. I didn't even know I did this, right? She said, I could see like you kind of clench your fists and release them. Like I could see that you were nervous. And she said, and I saw when Jenny got to you, she said, I saw you stand up in your power and you rose up, and I could feel what you were, what you were saying was coming from the heart. She said you were kind, you were gracious, you were compassionate, and by no means disrespectful. And you said it in a really beautiful way. And I thought to myself, I didn't even realize my body language like showed that I was clenching my fist. I definitely felt a bit nervous, but she saw my posture change, right? She saw my posture change, not knowing what I was about to say, but she saw me rise up and she saw my body language, which is going to show me how much I stood up and I rose up and my body shifted, my energy shifted when I come from a place of truth. And that is what will happen with you too. When you stand in your power, when you say your truth, when you set your boundaries, when you speak from the heart of what is in alignment for you, what is right for you, what is good for you, it just feels freeing and it actually rises you up to kind of meet that higher self version of you when you speak your truth, girls. So I really wanted to share that example with you to just give you permission to do it for you, for your family, and for other women around you. And there's been a few situations where that has happened to me recently. Actually, I was with my well, actually, I'll give you a couple of examples. Riley, just like 2 days ago, there's something that she committed to doing that she really didn't want to do, but she did it out of not wanting to let the person down, right? Because she, again, doesn't want to upset anybody. And so she did it from a place of wanting to please instead of what's right for her. Then she's wrung Tom and I in tears because she didn't want to be there. And I said to her, I said, can you see how you not honoring what you wanted? I said, this is a really good lesson for you, okay? Like, there's nothing bad. You just have to see the fun in it, have the joy in it. Like, you're there now, it's fine. But can you just see for next time, you are going in different ways with people around you. You need to honor what is right for you because you're the one that suffers when you're doing something that you don't want to do. You're the one that feels uncomfortable. You're the one that's upset. You're the one that feels like you don't want to be there. Like, you have to honor yourself and just let this be a lesson for what you do next time, right? So we're going to have times where we feel like we have done something and stood in our power and stood our truth and felt great. Then we're going to have lessons and experiences where maybe we didn't and we didn't feel that good afterwards, or we were left feeling unfulfilled or upset or angry or resentful. It's okay, right? Like, there's no right or wrong. It's just a lesson. It's just an experience. And the more you have these experiences, the more you learn what is going to be more in alignment for you next time. And you teach your kids these things, right? So when you go through these things, you teach your kids. So another example with Riley, just a couple of weeks ago, she sold her beloved Jeep, which she's loved for many, many years. But she had a company car for a while, and her work's so good. The real estate she works for is so amazing. Really love her and look after her. And she had this company car for quite a few months, and she started driving that and just feeling a little bit more comfortable. The Jeep's a cool chic car. She's had it for a few years, loved it, served its purpose. But she said, Mum, I feel I want more of a professional car now. And I said to her, I said, honey, like, that's good, because if you do want to go down that professional route, if that's like your path you want to take, I said, you become her first. Like, you step into that identity first. And it's little things that, like the way you dress, the way you carry yourself, the thoughts that you have, the way you speak, the car you drive, like all of those things affect the way you feel and the energy you put out. So if you are going to feel that a car, she could afford it, she was happy, she'd saved up, she'd been working hard, and she got this little Audi, right? Gorgeous little Audi. And I don't know cars, I don't know, but it's just more of a luxurious car that is in alignment with the work that she's in, right? And her partner, they've all got, the boys have got four drive. She doesn't need a four drive anymore. She's had her fun. And I went, that's fine, and so we supported her with that decision. And anyway, we had to go and pick up the car. I went with her to pick the car up. And when we get there, we had to be there at like 10 o'clock. It was from like a car, like one of the smaller kind of car places where they're in like a commercial shed for luxury cars. And we get there and she said, oh, we have to be there at 10 o'clock. We left a little bit earlier because of traffic. And so we got there, it was like 20 minutes early. And Riley said, oh, we'll just sit in the car and wait till 10 o'clock. And I said, honey, the door's open. She goes, no, they said 10 o'clock. I said, I'm just going to go and ask. And she goes, no, mum, you can't. Like they said 10 o'clock. I said, who cares? The door's open. I'm just going to go up and I'm going to ask. If they say, no, we're not ready yet, come in at 10, that's fine. We'll go sit in our car and we'll just wait. She goes, well, you can do it. I'm not going in. That's embarrassing. So I go, fine. And I walked in. And I just said, hi, and yelled out since the man come out of the office. I said, look, I'm a little bit early. The traffic was flowing really good. We come from the coast, so I left a little bit earlier just to make sure we weren't late for you. Can we come in now, or would you prefer I come back at 10 o'clock? So I gave the option, right? He goes, no, I'm always early. The car's ready. Come on in. So I went out and said, Riley, come on in. She ran in all excited because she's wanted to get a car with a bow on it. She hasn't had a car with a bow on it before, so she was so pumped. And we got there early. And I said, Riley, just see how. Oh, there was one other thing. And I said to the guy, did you put a full tank of fuel in it? Because he was a different guy. The guy that sold her the car was on holidays. And I said, the guy said that he was going to, he knocked a bit of money off. He didn't go down quite as low as what we had asked. And he said, but I'll fill it up for you. And I said, did you pop a full tank of fuel in? And he said, oh, I don't know if he did. Let me check. And he said, and I said, this is what the man said. But I completely understand he's not there. It's fine. And he said, no, it's okay. And he checked and it was on empty. He goes, here, I'll transfer you $100, which is more than what the tank of fuel would have cost. And he transferred Riley $100 and said, I'm so sorry about that. I said, look, it's totally fine. He just mentioned it. I just wanted to check. And because when I asked, Riley's looked at me like, Mum, you can't say that. Anyway, we kind of get home. We both drove the cars home. She went straight to the petrol station. And I said to her, babe, can you see how when you just speak up, like I said it, I wasn't rude. I just said it nicely. I just asked, like, is it okay if I come in early? If not, I respect that you said 10, we'll come back at 10. And I said, and I just asked because they said they will fill the car up with a tank of fuel for you. And they're just busy and they just forgot. And the guy went on holidays. It's no big deal. But I said, can you see how you got the car early? You're back because she had to go back to work. I said, you're back to work early. You've got more money than, like you got he gave you $100. The full tank might have cost 70 or 80 bucks. I said, can you just see how just asking, there is no harm in asking. What's the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that could happen was they could just say, no, we're not ready. Come back at 10. I'd go, okay, and go sit in the car. Like, when you do these things, when you have the courage to just ask, this is what I always like to ask myself. What is the worst thing that can happen, right? Like chances are people are just going to say no, or you might not get your request. So what? Like just ask. There is no harm in speaking up and just asking. And the little by little, the kids kind of see this, the more it builds confidence in them to ask and not be timid and not hide. And and just what's the worst thing that can happen? Like with the kids ask something and they say no, so what? Like that's what I really love to kind of teach to my children. And it comes from me having the courage to speak up. It comes from me asking questions. It comes from me having the confidence in myself to just ask, right? Like, or just talk. It is not going to do any harm when it comes from a place of respect. Like I said to the man, if we can't come in and you want us to come back, I totally respect that. And people are fine when you come from a place of love, when you come from a place of respect, when you come from a place of that mutual exchange of energy, remember, honoring you and honoring them. And, the more you can do this, the more it builds confidence in yourself little by little. And it definitely comes with age as well. But, I went into, I was at Little Ego Cafe the other day and I just say what's on my mind. I got out of the car and I saw a car beside me and it had on it this Freedom Boat Club, which I just wanted to find more out about. And anyway, and I walked in, I saw Donna who owned Little Ego, and I said to her, hey Donna, do you know whose car that is? Is that like the Freedom Boat Club? Is that a customer of yours? Or is that like just somebody in the complex? And a man heard me and he popped his hand up and he said, that's me. And I said, oh, hey, my name's Lisa. Can I ask you a few questions? And just strike up a conversation with people and just ask. There is no in doing that. And sometimes when I do things like that, like my husband might roll his eyes or my kids might look at me and go, Mum, you're so embarrassing. But I just learnt that I was a lot more shy. I was definitely a lot more timid. I would definitely be the person that wanted to be liked. And I still do. I still like being liked, like most people. And a lot of fears around speaking up come from that fear of upsetting people, that fear of being disliked, that fear of not fitting in, that fear of what if I offend somebody, that fear of I need to honor their needs because they've got more of a maybe a stronger personality or a stronger energy. So I will just shrink a little bit. And that's what happens is you kind of tend to shrink back to your fears as opposed to having the courage to speak your truth, as opposed to having the courage to set boundaries, as opposed to having the courage to actually ask for what you want. Like the kids get embarrassed by me sometimes at restaurants. There might be something that's not on the menu and I'll just ask them. Sometimes I like going out and I just want to have fish and veggies and I'll just say, can you just make up like not fried, pan fried, grilled fish and veggies, and the kids will look at me like, Mum, can you just order like a normal person? I'm like, but why? There's nothing I want on the menu. I just feel like protein and veg. I will just ask for it. Most times they will do it for you. So try not to let the fear of embarrassment hold you back. Ask for what you want. As long as you're coming from a place of love, you're coming from good intentions, you're coming from a place of respect, you're coming from that mutual exchange of energy that it's okay for you, it's okay for them. What is the worst thing that can happen, angels? Probably nothing. But if you don't, what's the contrast? Look back to times in your life and just go through examples, remembering there's no right or wrong, good or bad. What's happened when you maybe have spoken your truth with a harsh tongue? And because the opposite can happen, right? Like I was having a chat with one of my beautiful clients the other day and we were both talking about, we're quite strong women, and we were both talking how we give advice and sometimes maybe over give advice, or sometimes are probably can be a little bit heavy-handed with our advice, whether it's to our partner or to our kids. And I was chatting with her about this and I said how sometimes I can probably piss my family off and they might, I can maybe push them away a little bit because maybe my tongue is a bit harsh and maybe I am speaking from, I'm at a different place to they're at, and I just need to meet them where they're at, and I just need to accept them for the stage of their life that they're at and the place that they're at, and love and accept them for who they are. So I've experienced it on the other hand too, when maybe my voice has been a little bit overbearing or a little bit overpowering or come across like, a little bit forceful to my partner or my kids. And that's what this client said as well. And I said to her, what I'm learning is like, it's learning, right? I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. It's all experience. And I said to her, because she said people come to me for advice because she has great advice. She's a very beautiful, wise soul. And I imagine she would have the most incredible advice because I talk to her all the time and I know what she's like. And she said, people come to me for advice and I often find like I'm telling them what to do. And I said, based on how you would do it? She said, exactly. I said, because that's what I do. It's based on how I would do it or what I think is right. And I said to her, what I'm learning is sometimes the best thing is when they come to you for that advice, they come to you to chat, is to actually say, listen and say, well, what do you think that you should do? Do you want my advice or would you like me to just listen? Is another good one that I'm learning more and more to use with my family. But maybe letting them, because it's amazing how sometimes when people spill to you, when people open up to you, sometimes they will get their own guidance, they will get their own wisdom, they will get their own answer. And maybe you just need to be that little spark to go, what do you think you should do? And just put it back in their court and listen to what they say. And I found that again through experience. Be mindful of what's happened in the past. If your tongue's too harsh, if you haven't spoken up, if you haven't set boundaries, if you've walked away with regret from not saying how you really feel, look back at what's happened as lessons that are going to help shape you moving forward, that are going to help you stand in your power, that are going to help you use your voice, that are going to help you stand up moving forward. Let the past be lessons along the way for what has unfolded. And sometimes it's unfolded the way you wanted it to, like that situation I spoke about at retreat where you might have helped somebody or you stood in your own power. Sometimes it's come across in a way that has not helped anyone at all. So look at those situations from a place of learning. And next time when you go to speak up or when you go to speak too much, sit with it just for a split second and think, how is this going to end? If I don't speak up, am I going to walk away and be disappointed with myself? Am I going to be frustrated in myself? Am I going to feel resentful because I didn't have my boundaries? Am I going to feel that it's going to be bad energy for me and them because I didn't say what I really feel? Like that could be like you lied or you held back the truth or you just said what they wanted to hear. So just have a think about how is it going to end? And sometimes you just need to think in that split second, right? Like it's not like you're sitting there reflecting for 5 minutes. It might just be that split second thought. How is this going to end? And how is it going to serve my authentic self? Asking yourself those questions when you're about to either chicken out, when you're about to speak, when you're faced with a confronting situation. Think about how you're going to feel afterwards and let that help guide your decision. But you know what? When you get to a place of being in alignment with who you are, it gets easier to be yourself around other people. I know in the past, I was very much almost like that chameleon sometimes where I'd kind of change a little bit to suit the group that I was in. When I made a decision a couple of years ago to go, you know what, I'm just going to be me. And people are either going to like me or they're not going to like me. And the outcome, I'm not attached to that outcome, right? I'm just going to show up and be me. And the more I decided to speak from the heart with you guys here, the more I decided to speak from the heart, like in the studio. If I made mistakes, if I, count wrong, which happens all the time, or if I'm feeling something and I just say it, people actually relate to me better. People relate to me more when I make mistakes. People relate to me more when I just say how I feel or just have the courage to ask them questions. And I'm finding that people actually, I shouldn't say like me more, but you know what I mean? Like people actually like you more, connect with you more, feel more comfortable, feel more supported by you, feel that they can be more comfortable to be themselves because you've done it first. And when you decide to go, I'm just going to be myself, I'm just going to speak from my heart, and I'm going to say how I feel, it is going to serve you when it comes from a place of good intention. So always step back to that intention that is in integrity for you, that is honoring you, and that is honoring the other person, and just having that little thought. How is this going to end? If I say the thing, if I don't say the thing, how am I going to feel? How's the other person going to feel? And you just can't go wrong, girls. I hope that helps. And I really want to encourage you moving forward to just be yourself, to just, the more you work with me, the more you come into the studio, the more you work on yourself, the more books you read, the more audios that you listen to, the more that you go on that spiritual deep dive journey of discovering more about yourself, who you are, what you like, what you won't tolerate, all the things about you. You just embody more truth and you just embody more of your heart and soul. When you get connected with your heart and soul on a deeper level, it just starts to spill out of you and you become more real. And we need more real women in the world, girls. We need women that lift each other up. We need women that speak their truth. We need women that are leading by example. We need women that are vulnerable and open enough to share their flaws and share their mistakes and share their lessons, but share their wisdom, share their stories, share their experiences from a place of the heart. We need more of this, angels. So I want to inspire you today to speak your truth, to lead with your heart, to be your authentic self, and to show up for you and for the world as the beautiful, real, authentic angel that you are, girls, and you will be unstoppable. I can't wait to see you in the next episode. Have a beautiful day, my friends. Mwah! So much love to you. Bye.